fellow miners, and welcome back. Today, I want to make some noise. I recently ran into a deck that I had played in the past. Y'all know it as a Mississippi River if you're into the crazy deck names. If you're a purist, it's creative technique combo. But I ran into a version of it recently that actually played a new Dragonstorm Tarkir card called Breaching Dragonstorm, which essentially was another weird form of cascade, but it could actually cast stuff higher than its mana value. It could cast anything up to mana value of 8. Um, so I tried to find a deck list that had that to see what they swapped out to bring Breaching Dragonstorm in, and I actually kind of went down this rabbit hole of seeing what other new cards recently since the last time I played this deck got printed. And I wound up finding a card from the Warhammer 40k set actually in the form of Noise Marine, and I'm like, okay, I gotta give this a shot. So this is a 5 mana 3/2 Cascader. However, it has an ETB where when it enters the battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of spells you have cast this turn. So it's essentially a cascade burn spell. And I'm like, okay, I gotta try this out. So this is Mississippi River with a burn backup plan in the form of Noise Marine. If you haven't seen this deck, basically the whole point of this deck is to cast one of your Cascaders, whether it's Noise Marine, throws a Chaos, Violent Outburst, go down the chain, hit a Tybalt's Trickery, counter whatever your Cascader was to hopefully spin into either a larger Cascader, such as Maelstrom Wanderer, Call Forth the Tempest, or Apex Devastator, which also have multiple Cascade triggers to eventually find your way down into Creative Technique, which is a 5 mana sorcery that has the ability called Demonstrate, where Demonstrate is you can have a copy of the spell if you give your opponent a copy of it as well. And it shuffles your library, exile cards until you hit a non-land card, cast that spell without paying its mana cost. And basically what this deck is trying to do is once you get this chain going, it just keeps going and going and going until eventually you basically flip your entire deck onto the battlefield. And you can beat them down that turn if you hit a Maelstrom Wanderer. If you end up hitting an Emrakul, you get an extra turn and can beat them down that way. The one downside of this version of the deck that has Tybalt's Trickery is there is actually a fizzle rate here. If you end up Tybalt's Trickerying into a Tybalt's Trickery, or you end up cascading down into just your Violent Outbursts after you run out of Tybalt's Trickeries, the chain basically just stops, and you're like, okay, well now I gotta pass a turn, hope I can do it again next turn, or hope that I was able to get enough stuff on the battlefield that I can attack through whatever my opponent has on my next turn and I'm not dead. So I saw Noise Marine as a sweet way to kind of back up the plan to have another way to win on the turn that you go off using Burn. So that if your chain fizzles, hopefully you've at least hit a Noise Marine. And typically once your chain is fizzled, you've already cast a ton of spells. You're talking at least 10 plus at that point. There are times you can actually get the full 20 spells and then resolve your Noise Marine and just dome your opponent for 20. So I am trying out this new little version of Mississippi River that I'm calling Noisy River in honor of Noise Marine here, and seeing if it actually can work as a good backup plan for the deck. To enable this deck, because it's a very high mana cost Cascade deck, we are playing a whole shitload of Soul Lands, 4 full Ancient Tombs, City of Traders, Crystal Vein, which is basically like budget City of Traders for the most part, and some really old dual lands as well in the form of the sack lands that you might remember from the old Sackland Tendrils budget Magic deck, that you sacrifice them for 2 mana, Sandstone Needle, Tinder Farm, there's Hickory Woodlot somewhere in here as well, and then a couple of lands that only produce 1 mana just to help fix our colors a little bit, a single basic mountain, Taiga. There's Mossfire Valley, which, while it only actually produces 1 mana, because you got to tap another land to tap it, it helps you filter your mana to be able to get your green mana to be able to Violent Outburst, or if you get enough mana to be able to cast something like an Apex Devastator. Also got a full playset of Besejus to give us access to green mana and to be able to blow up any problematic enchantments or artifacts from our opponent, such as something like a Torpor Orb that would shut down any of your ETB triggers like your Noise Marine, your Tali, your Trumpeting Carnosaur, or to blow up something like a Deafening Silence that just straight up ruins your day. Some other filler stuff in the deck is we've got 2 Trumpeting Carnosaurs, which act as pseudo cascaders with the Discover ability, but we can also channel them to kill small problematic creatures. So something like a Thalia, which is going to tax your spells, or to be able to like kill a Teferi, because Teferi just straight up ruins the entire deck, because everything we're doing is technically considered instant speed, because Cascade puts a trigger on the stack. Teferi just straight up shuts this deck down entirely. And then we have a 1 of a Tally, which also acts as a pseudo cascader as well, to hit another card off of our deck, and then also to be able to hit something out of our opponent's deck that might help us out. Like we could hit a discard spell off of their deck, we could hit a Teferi to stop them from being able to play any counter magic from us, anything like that. So that is the main deck here, is basically we just want to get this chain going, and once it gets going, it just goes. And in theory, we're going to play our entire deck. We're either going to hit an Emrakul to get an extra turn, we're going to hit a Maelstrom Wanderer to kill our opponent with all of our creatures on our turn, or we're going to hit a Noise Marine to just burn our opponent out of the game. The sideboard, a lot of it is just to stop our opponent's opposing combo decks, because we are a slower combo deck. Typically, we can go off as early as turn 2, but most of the time you're looking at turn 3 or 4 for the most part, so it is a slower combo deck in the sense of Legacy. So we've got Mindbreak Trap to stop opposing Storm decks, and like the artifact decks that are running around like Mystic Force to try to exile their finishers. We've got Leyline of the Void to shut down stuff like Oops All Spell and Reanimator that can go off faster than we can. We also have some utility stuff in the sideboard. We've got a full playset of Ingot Chewers to be able to shut or kill problematic artifacts from our opponent. Stuff like a Torpor Orb can shut down some of what we're doing here. Being able to get rid of like a Trinisphere or something, which also seriously taxes what we're trying to do. 2 more Trumpeting Carnosaurs to act as some additional removal, in addition to a Pyrokinesis, just to wipe up problematic creatures that are on the board. And then we have an additional Tybalt's Trickery if we want some additional redundancy to be able to go faster. We do only have 3 Tybalt's Trickery main deck, and something that can happen is you just fizzle the chain, you lose Tybalt's Trickeries, or because part of the cost of Tybalt's Trickery when it resolves is you mill some cards, you could accidentally mill another Tybalt's Trickery or something that you needed. So just having additional copies of it, just to make sure that if your first attempt fizzles, you have more in your deck to be able to try to go again. So let's see if we can make some noise with the Noise Marine, see if Mississippi River can hang out in the current meta, and I will catch you all in the wrap-up. Play any of the decks you see on this channel with a Mana Traders rental subscription. With a variety of tiers to fit any budget, Mana Traders lets you play whatever you want in whatever format you want. Use code DasSourKraut at checkout and become a better player today. Alright, round 1, let's go. Up against Fish Duggery. I vaguely recognize this name. That said, we cannot keep this. We will ship it. We can keep this. I'm just debating what we want to put back. I kind of want to hold on to the Trumpeting Carnosaur to try to go again. So, I think we're going to put back the Boseiju for now. This is a turn 3, and hopefully our opponent is not on a Wasteland deck. Chrome Mox. Okay, so is this going to be Mono Red Prison? Yes, looks like Mono Red Stompy. Trinisphere is absolutely brutal. If they just want to Chalice on us, that's totally fine. Blood Moon also isn't the worst thing in the world. Oh, no, they're on some kind of Rakdos something? Pyrogoyf, okay. So they're going to have a very fast clock, but we shouldn't have to worry about counter magic? That said, they are low on resources now. Dwarven Mine's not bad. We'll play Sandstone Needle, pass the turn. If we draw a Violent Outburst, we can go next turn. Cycling an Oliphant. Okay, so this is some kind of cool Rakdos brew of some sort. Grab a Raucous Theater. Get under Surveil on. Are they going to have like some kind of Reanimator package here, or are they just growing their Pyro? Looks like they're just growing their Pyrogoyf. That's fine. Violent Outburst would be amazing here. Call forth the Tempest. Okay. Well, we just got a dodge for 1 turn. They've only got 2 cards in hand, and they didn't really have a play last turn. Badlands from the opponent. Okay. Into Pyrogoyf Part 2. Got it. Okay. I mean, this is a lot of damage. This is 9 damage. And we just gotta hope that we hit well with our creative technique. We could also try to play it safe and Trumpeting Carnosaur so we have a blocker if this fails. The question is do we want to do that? There's a higher fizzle rate if we do this. But if we do fizzle, then there is the possibility. Because, like, the worst thing that could happen is if we creative technique and demonstrate them into a pyroglyph, we're just dead and we look stupid. Well, I think we came here to creative technique, so we're going to just go ahead and creative technique here. It gives us 2 shots. It gives them 1 wheel. There's only 2 pyroglyphs left in the deck. Yeah, we're just going to go for it. And just hope that we don't demonstrate them into another pyroglyph, because if we do, we're dead. Fatal push. Okay, cool. So we faded that. They're fatal pushing their own pyroglyph. Interesting. They didn't have to cast that. Okay, and we had an Emrakul. I am A-okay with that. First hit is an Emrakul. Into a second Emrakul. I mean, yeah, we'll cast it. That's hilarious that we hit 2 Emrakuls in a row. So we get another turn. Just keep one of these. Okay, and they scoop it up. We were also going to be able to Trumpet and Carnosaur, but we would have wiped their entire board with that Emrakul attack. Go figure, the first creative technique, and we don't even have to go down the whole river. We just hit Emrakul right off of the bat, back to back. Against what our opponent's doing, there's something to be said about pyrokinesis that can take out some stuff if they've got smaller goyfs, or if they're trying to go for something like Orcish Bowmasters or random stuff like that. We can bring in Ingot Chewers to try to cut off some of their mana. Like, we don't really got to worry about Chalice at all. I'm wondering if we want to bring in the Tybalt's Trickery to try to go a little bit faster, even. Just bring in the 4 Tybalt's Trickery and the 2 Pyrokinesises. We could also bring in the Trumpeting Carnosaurs for more removal. The correct thing is to get rid of the Noise Marines, but I don't think we want to do that. If we bring in these 2, maybe we don't even want the Pyrokinesis, but I feel like they're going to get creatures down pretty fast. I always think they might have a Reanimator plan, though. So there's something to be said about maybe bringing in ley lines, but the more stuff you bring in when you're sideboarding, the more diluted your deck is going to be. I think we can probably trim a Maelstrom Wanderer. As a one of, do we trust Pyrokinesis? I feel like we need to. Let's trim 1 Callforth the Tempest. I mean, it's really good for mopping up their board, but it kind of only happens once we start hitting our chain. So maybe we bring in another Tybalt's Trickery to increase our chances of hitting good stuff off of our lower Cascaders, and then bring in the 1 Pyrokinesis to try to mop up an early game Blitz. Let's try that. One of our Tybalt's Trickery's in hand already. There's also a possibility they have something like Trinisphere in the deck, but we saw a lot of 1-drops out of them. This still is only a turn 3. Do we think we can live that long? But it is back-to-back Fire Violent Outbursts. I think we're going to give it a shot. It's a little awkward we have a Tybalt's Trickery in hand. We could also Tybalt's Trickery them, but we'll see. We'll see what our draw is, though. We are relatively Thoughtseize proof here. Alright, Dark Ritual into a Barrowgoy, so they're going to try to go aggro fast. That's mostly fine. If we hit a Mossfire Bridge, we can go off next turn, but we'd have to play the Ancient Tomb to do that. I think we're just going to play the Mountain, then play Boseiju, then play Ancient Tomb. Getting hit with a 1-2 Barrowgoyf isn't the worst thing in the world for right now. I'm sure they're going to be able to do some other stuff too. Broadside Boom-be-Dooms. Okay, this is a very fast clock now. We just got to survive 1 more turn after this hit for 3. They can mill 1. It's a Dothy Voidwalker. And they just leave it in the bin. That's fine. Another Tybalt's Trickery. That's awkward. That means there's only 2 left in the deck. We'll probably Tybalt's Trickery whatever they play and just hope that we spin them into something pointless. Polluted Delta, okay. So we're relying on the randomness of Tybalt's Trickery to favor us here. Into a Swamp, okay. 4 mana into a Pyrogoyf. I think we're going to risk it and hope that we don't spin them into anything good. This also could grow their Barrowgoyf, which it does. Into a Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, that's not as much damage as it could be, and it means that we get to survive till next turn. This also does decrease our chances of Tybalt's Trickery into Tybalt's Trickery. So there is some benefit to that, because that is something that can happen. Alright, just seeing more of their deck at this point. I don't think we gotta worry about Chalice or Trinisphere out of this opponent. But we are banking very, very hard on our Tybalt's Trickery doing some work here. We also can do this without damaging ourselves, which isn't particularly going to matter because we're just dead with what's on board anyways. But I think that's probably the correct thing to do here. So we'll tap, make some mana here, make this, and then In Tybalt's Trickery We Trust, like I said, it does decrease our chances of accidentally hitting one. Tybalt's Trickery into Noise Marine. We will shuffle after the Noise Marine, which hits Tybalt's Trickery, which is going to hit the Noise Marine, which hits a creative technique. We are going to demonstrate this. I don't think there's anything we could spin them into that can kill us here. A Dark Ritual definitely doesn't do it. Into another creative technique, which we will demonstrate this one as well. Again, I don't think there's anything we can spin them into. Yeah, Fable the Mirror Breaker's fine. They can make another dude. Like, we're dead if none of this works anyways, so we are going to kill Boomby Dooms and one of the Shamans, and that should be our last whiff out of the deck, in theory. Okay, and then we hit an Apex Devastator, and now we should just be good from here, unless these are some absolutely horrendous cascades. Throws of Chaos doesn't hit anything. And our opponent scooped it up. Okay, taking out round one. On to the next one. All right, round two. Won the die roll. Let's go. Forgot to update the record there for a second. This is not keepable. It doesn't really do anything. This is a turn 3. We'll keep this, put the Emrakul back in the deck. And this is theoretically a turn 3 well, no, it's a turn 3. I was going to say refire into turn 4, but it's not. It's just a turn 3 unless we hit another depletion land or like an Ancient Tomb, some other form of sticky mana. But I like that we have 2 pieces here so that we theoretically could try to go again if they thought seize us or if the first one fizzles. I suppose this is actually go again turn 4 if we want to. If we play Dwarven Runes next turn and then they're not showing us blue or we don't want to play around a single or double days or something, we could Dwarven Runes tap next turn, followed by City of Traders. That way we have 5 for creative technique. Following turn we can play Mossfire Village, which gets us up to 6 mana to try to go off the next turn. And they're just playing a plateau and passing, so this could be like the energy deck, this could be an initiative deck, but we will just stay the course, basically just hoping to avoid whatchamacallits, Wastelands. Blood Moon would also be mildly problematic, but not the end of the world. Arid Mesa from the opponent, cracking it. Okay, they're Jeskai something. Okay, so they're Jeskai tempo energy thingamabobber. So Force of Will is something they could have. Daze is something they theoretically could have. So the question just becomes is, do we want to play around Daze? I don't think we do. We could also Trumpet Incarnosaur, but this they would need 2 counterspells for. So I think we're just going to stay the course here, cast this. If this doesn't work out, we go for Trumpet Incarnosaur next turn. They would need 2 counterspells here. If they have 2 counterspells, it's going to, like, destroy their hand. Granted, we could spin them into a counterspell, but yes, we will demonstrate. See what we spin them into. We did spin them into a Daze, which is unfortunate. We'll see if they cast it. For some reason, some opponents don't. Okay, they do Daze 1. Do they have a counterspell for the other one? Can't pay for it. Do you have a counterspell for the other one, opponent? Okay, they had 2 Dazes. Okay. We do just try to go for it again next turn. It sets them back a land. Ooh. What are they going to go after? They're going after that one. That is annoying. They had the Wasteland. So we need another untapped Soul Land or a few more turns of our opponent not really doing anything. That is a Dwarven Ruins. So I've got 5 mana here. I can't really do anything with that. I can kill the Ajani, but then that sets me back mana. Well, we're going to tap that, play a land. They don't have much of a clock going on at the moment, so hopefully we can get set up again before they can kill us here. But, I mean, these decks can go super fast. We know one of the cards in their hand is a land. They are down 2 Dazes. And luckily, their clock at the moment isn't super fast. If we hit an untapped Soul Land, we can try to go again. Okay, they're just going to make another Ajani. Luckily, they don't have any other red permanents, so they're not making any damage to us right now. But they could kill us next turn, depending on what happens here. Or we just draw Throes of Chaos. We gotta hope that they don't have a counterspell here. So do we want to try to wait a turn and Trumpet Incarnator, or do we just go for it and hope that they don't have Force of Will / Daze again? Well, we play this, sack one of these to make some mana. We can play around a Daze if we're willing to get rid of this other land. And we just die to Force of Will, but I think that's kind of just what we got to do at this point. If they got Force of Will, they got Force of Will. Like, this kind of is an ultimate just, like, Force of Will check deck. I can pay for a Daze. You have a Force in that hand. Yes, yes you do. Okay, they had 2 Forces. Pass the turn. Alright. And they're just going to put +1/+1 counters on all the cats. That's fine. I'm pretty sure we're dead here. Yeah, Beseiju doesn't do it. Okay, they just had enough counter magic and we spun them into one of them, so it is what it is. That said, we are going to bring in the Pyrokinesis and the additional Trumpet Incarnosaurs. And I think we're just going to take the Violent Outbursts out. It slows us down a smidge, but I want all of this removal to be able to deal with their creatures, and let's try that. Alright. Turn 3 Carnosaur. We can do better than this. Alright, this is a turn 2 Throes of Chaos. I think we're going to put the Devastator back in the deck. We're a little cooked here if they start off with a Wasteland, but like half of our deck is mana. So even if they waste this Dwarven Ruins, I think we're fine. Volcanic Island, okay. Into a Ponder. There's something to be said also about just trying to play this slow so that we keep our red mana around. It's going to depend on what we draw for a land here. They did shuffle their library. Okay. If we draw another red source, Sandstone Needle, okay. So we can just play Sandstone Needle this turn. That way we have sticky red mana to try to go off again next turn. Opponent's brainstorming, okay. That's fine. We also could just try to Noise Marine and see what our opponent does here, which I don't hate that at all. Okay, white mana. I'm just not sure what I would rather get countered here is the big thing. A Beseiju is interesting. I think we're just going to play Crystal Vein and play a Throes of Chaos. Since we have another one in hand and they can't get us completely off of red mana here, I think this is worth it. Okay, they're consigning to memory the Throws trigger. Okay, well, we got another one of those. 3 mana. A Johnny. Okay, that's fine. Another Ancient Tomb. So we're just gonna do it again. Tap for 1, deal some damage, keep our mana around. You have another consign to memory. And I can pay for a Daze this time. And then if all of this fails, I can Noise Marine next turn. Or I could always just go for Throes of Chaos again, chucking one of these lands. Alright, see if they have another counterspell. I imagine they have to have a Force of Will or something similar. Okay, they're brainstorming. Are they looking for the counter, or are they just sculpting their hand to figure out what they want to pitch to a Force of Will? Alright, they got a Force of Will. Pitching a Mockingbird, okay. That's mostly fine. We can do this again next turn. And all the while, we are increasing our overall mana to get to the point where we actually could cast another Cascader. Alright, hit us for 3. Is this a follow-up Ajani? Yes. Okay. So they've got another Ajani. They're going to flip it over into Planeswalker mode, which is fine. Probably just make a dude, yeah. They don't have another red thing, so they can't actually hit us here. Alright, what do we hit? We hit an Emrakul. So, how much mana do I have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I have enough mana to try to Throes of Chaos, and if that fails, I can Force Marine? Okay. We will tap this, and tap this to Throes of Chaos, bidding the Beseiju. And if this fails, we can Noise Marine. Tybalt's Trickery, hit the Throes of Chaos into a Trumpet Incarnosaur. Trumpet Incarnosaur discovers 5 to hit a Creative Technique, which, yes, we will demonstrate. Hopefully we don't hit them into a counterspell. We hit them into a Ponder. Okay. So they can search for a counterspell. They did not shuffle, so I'm guessing that means they found a counter? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay, well, we'll cast a Noise Marine, which will Cascade, into a Tybalt's Trickery, which we will cast on Noise Marine, which finds an Emrakul, which we will cast. And they scoop it up! Okay, we got the river flowing that time. The question becomes, do we want to bring the Violent Outburst back in to try to go faster? Or I think we just want to run it back. This, unfortunately, is not capable. We gotta ship that. We can keep this. I think we will get rid of the Mossfire Valley. Start out with Sandstone Needle and go from there. Tundra from the opponent to start. Into a Guided Soul, so they're going to have a much more aggro start this time. Into another Ancient Tomb. It's just which one of these do we want to start out with? I think we're going to start out with the Dwarven Ruins. We'd prefer that get Wastelanded than the Sandstone Needle. Yep, there's the Wasteland. That's... and an Ocelot Pride. Okay, so they've got a clock going. But hopefully they kept it on that disruption and not off of multiple counterspells on top of all this. So we will play a Sandstone Needle, pass a turn. Opponent is going to get quite a fast cat army. Brainstorm, okay. I mean, we can throws next turn, try to throws again the turn after that. Volcanic Island, okay. And they're getting in. They're going to get a kitty cat at the end of all this. And now they can grow one of their threats. So the question is, how much disruption do they have? There's an Emrakul. I mean, we're going to go for it. And hope that doing this 2 times in a row does something. Hopefully we're not dead next turn somehow. Is this a Consigned Memory? Yes. Okay. Well, that gets a counterspell out of their hand. And then next turn we should be able to do this again with Daze Protection. Taking 2, 4, 6 damage at least. Into an Amped Raptor. Okay. Cycled into an Ocelot Pride. Okay. So basically... okay, they've got 2 cards left in hand. We could Trumpet Incarnosaur. This is going to be our last turn, depending on what they got. They're going to have the City's Blessing now. Okay, well, we gotta hope that they don't have it, basically. Your 2 cards in hand, what do you have, opponent? Call forth the Tempest. It'd be nice if we had one more turn to be able to do something with that, but we don't. So the question just becomes, is do we want to chuck this Tiger, or do we want to chuck the Ancient Tomb? Seeing as I don't think it really matters, Daze is all we really care about here, I think we're just going to chuck the Ancient Tomb. Alright, it's just a matter of do they have it. They already used 1 Consigned Memory. I can pay for a Daze. In Tybalt's Trickery we trust. Oh, it was Force and Will blue card? Oh, so rough. Okay, yeah, you got us, opponent. I'll let you swing out with your cats and kill me. Oh, so close. Alright. Opponent's just swinging out here, gonna pump their cat. Good game, opponent. Opponent actually said that they knew the channel, so hopefully you catch this one. And on to the next one. Alright, lost a die roll. Up against Squishman. So this is a turn 3, and one of our Tybalt's Trickeries is in hand. I think we can do better than this. We don't have the mana. We have a Carnosaur to try to kill something while we wait. And again, we have a Tybalt's Trickery in hand, but if we hit any kind of mana, we can Noise Marine. I think we're going to keep this. Let's put the Emrakul back. Trust the deck here. We can also cycle the Carnosaur to kill a creature if that's the kind of thing that our opponent's on. Misty Rainforest from the opponent. Into an island. Into a Ponder. The good old textless Ponder. I actually saw, or was listening to a podcast recently. It was the Eternal Glory podcast, and they were talking about people complaining about foreign language cards. And I think it was Bryant Cook made a comment about, like, as soon as the textless cryptic command was printed, all arguments about what language cards are and if they're readable or not just went completely out the window. And I thought that was hilarious. And I 100% agree. That being said, opponent did not shuffle off of that Ponder. We hit another Sandstone Needle. That's good. So we can play a Sandstone Needle, then we can play another Sandstone Needle, and then we can Trumpet Incarnosaur, or we can Noise Marine around Daze if we think that's what our opponent has. And Misty from the opponent, but not doing anything yet. We have another Noise Marine, so we're just going to play the other Sandstone Needle. We can also Emergency Tybalt's Trickery, whatever our opponent does if we need to. Brainstorm from the opponent. And are they going to fetch away to clear it? Yes, they are. So what is our opponent doing? Meticulous Archive, getting a Surveillance. Are they full-on control? Are they like a Nadu deck? Is this just like a Bean-style deck that just isn't showing us the green mana yet? They kept their card on top. I would not mind a green land to try to test their interaction with Violent Outburst on their turn first. Something like a Taiga, a Boseiju, a Mossfire Verge, or whatever it's called. Just something to be able to try to go off with Violent Outburst first. Like I said, if they try to like Teferi or something, we can try to Tybalt's Trickery it, because the one downside is Teferi just literally shuts our deck down. Misty Rainforest from the opponent, a very quick crack. Into a Shuko. Okay, so they are breakfast combo. Do they have the Cephalid Illusionist to go with it? And if so, do they also have a counter spell to protect it? Because if they try to Cephalid Illusionist, we're just gonna Tybalt's Trickery it and hope that we wheel them into something else. They also could just not be on the like breakfast version. This could just be straight up like Bant value Nadu. There's also something to be said about we could let them mill their entire library and then Tybalt's Trickery the Dread Return after we see how many forces and dazes are in their graveyard to check to see if they have any in their hand. Alright, they do have an Illusionist. I think we're going to let them mill their deck here because it's kind of the same thing either way. If they have the Force, we're just dead regardless. This lets us see their deck and gives us an idea if they have any counter magic in hand. So we see one Force. I'm just going to go ahead and always yield to this. Okay, that's 2 forces. Always yield to this. 3 forces. Okay, that's all 4 forces in the graveyard. We will see if they mill over any dazes to see if those are even in the deck. They might not have them due to Voice of Victory. Because if we don't see any dazes, it either means their entire hand is 4 days, or they just don't play it. Alright, Aether Vial, Swords of Plowshares. Okay, they've either literally don't have days in their deck, or their hand is 4 dazes. Seeing if there's anything else that they would have 4 ofs. Okay, so hold on here. There's 4 forces in the bin already. Voice of Victory, I see 2. Nomads and Core, I see 3. So there's at least 1 Nomads and Core in their hand. Or it's the last card in their deck. I mean, either they've got a daze or they don't. So, I mean, it's not like we really have a choice here. Alright. We might have just cheesed them into us winning here. There's a Memories Journey, so they theoretically could put something back on top of their deck, but they don't have counter magic. So we should be able to just pop off here. Because they can Memories Journey in their end step to put back minimum of 2 cards, because they can't Memories Journey. Okay, no, they could Memories Journey and get Thassa's Oracle. But we're free to just pop off here. There's our last Tybalt's Trickery. That's mildly concerning. So I think we're going to Trumpet Incarnosaur. So we have a better chance of hitting Creative Technique. And we hit Tybalt's Trickery. What are the fucking chances? Well, now they can Memories Journey back their Thassa's Oracle and win. We almost got the cheese out. Oh, that's disappointing. Because this is up to 3 cards, right? Yeah. Oh, we almost had them. Oh, just a bad wheel on the Carnosaur. Maybe we should have Noise Marined. That being said, we are going to bring in Leyline of the Void. I think we're going to bring in Pyrokinesis and the Trumpeting Carnosaurs. I think we're going to cut down on Violent Outbursts. We can trim a Emrakul, a Call Forth the Tempest. Probably trim a Tali. And I hate to do it, but we're going to trim 1 Noise Marine. Let's try something like that. Alright, let's see what we got here. No red mana, gotta ship this. We don't really have sticky red mana. But this isn't terrible. We could go as early as turn 2. I think we're going to keep this. We are going to put the Tybalt's Trickery back in the deck. We will play the Dwarven Ruins and pass. This also could be a turn 3 Creative Technique. I don't like that we now have a bunch of stuff that kind of whiffs in the deck in the form of those ley lines, but it is what it is. Another Dwarven Ruins. Let's play Tinder Farm here. Because with Mossfire Valley, we can try to go again next turn without sacrificing 2 lands. Alright. Hedgemaze from the opponent. Kept whatever it was on top. Okay. Savannah. Voice of Victory. Okay, so I can't cast things on their turn. They might be setting up to just try to go off next turn. We didn't see Dazes in their deck, so there's a good chance that they don't have them. They could have a Force of Will here, but we are going to try to go for it. Sacrifice this. Make some mana. Make some mana. Throws a Chaos. And just hope that they don't have it protected turn 3 here. See if they've got the Force of Will. They do. Force of Will pitching a Brainstorm. Okay. There's still the possibility that they can do it next turn. We also can do it next turn. Oh, they're gonna Surgical Extraction the Tybalt's Trickeries. Okay. Well, we got a creative technique, so we just gotta wait another turn and we can try to go off. Well, another 2 turns, unless we hit a untapped Soul Land. Okay. And we'll ship the turn, just hope they don't have it. They would need land plus Enabler plus Cephalid Illusionist to be able to go off. So 3 of their 4 cards have to be perfect. Ponder. Okay, so they're not going for it this turn. They shuffled their library. That's a good sign. Okay, they got a Nomads and a land. So there is very much a possibility they can go off. I would love an untapped Soul Land here. Another Throes of Chaos that doesn't do anything. We will just play the Dwarven Ruins and pass and hope for the best here. We can Beseiju something if we need to. They put a Plains in their graveyard. Okay. I'm not sure what Besieguing anything will do if they just have it, but... Alright, they got it. Yeah, there's nothing we can do here, unfortunately. We will just F6 through the turn. I mean, they got it, so... Alright, good game, opponent. On to the next one, I suppose. Alright, won the die roll. Up against Saute. Love the username. Props to you if you see this. I mean, this is a turn 2. It sucks we got some of our bigger guys in hand, but we're going to keep this. We could also try to play a little slower, go on turn 4, so then we can follow up with a creative technique. We'll see what we draw, though. Mountain from the opponent. Okay. Into a Lotus Petal. Is this going to be, like, Ruby Storm? Yes. So, if it's Ruby Storm, we just go for it, because we don't want them to untap and combo us. And we should not have to worry about counter magic at all. And we just gotta, whoops, tap the wrong color mana. And we just gotta hope that our Tybalt's Trickery hits good. In Tybalt's Trickery, we trust. Into a Noise Marine, okay. Into another Tybalt's Trickery. Well, that's our last Tybalt's Trickery. Please do not hit one of our lower Cascaders. Okay, there we go. Into an Apex Devastator. This should get us the win. This isn't going to do anything, unfortunately. But it is going to increase our storm count and get a bunch of these lower Cascaders out of our deck. These are some bad Cascades, I'm not going to lie. We got 2 more. Okay, creative technique. There we go. Yes, we will demonstrate this. There shouldn't be anything we can wheel them into that'll kill us here. They get a Lotus Petal, that's fine. Into a Trumpeting Carnosaur. Into another creative technique. Yes, we will demonstrate. Wheel our opponent into a Ral Monsoon Mage. Okay. Into a Maelstrom Wanderer. Okay, I'm pretty sure we got it from here. We will cast Throes of Chaos. It seems weird doing this, but A, it gets it out of our deck, and B, it increases the number of spells we cast, specifically for Noise Marine. Sure, we'll play Natali. That's fine. We will play their Burgie, and they scoop it up. Well, we were going to play their Burgie in our Emrakul, so... Alright. In sideboard games here, we want the Mindbreak Traps, and I think we want the removal spells. We want to go fast, though. We can probably take out Etali, call forth the Tempest. Maybe we don't want the removal. The Mindbreak Traps are also kind of iffy. It stops them when they try to go off crazy, but they're really bad hits off of our Cascades. Like, again, that's what I was saying, where, like, when you do this kind of stuff, when you're bringing in these things, you're diluting your combo. I think we'll trim 1 Emrakul. I really don't want to cut the Noise Marines. They're kind of why we're doing what we're doing here. Maybe we don't need the Pyrokinesis. It is instant speed, but they don't really go off until turn 2 most of the time, unless they have an absolutely nutty draw. And we can kill a Ral with the Trumpeting Carnosaurs. I don't want to trim too many of our Cascaders. Alright, we're going to do the Blasphemous thing. The correct thing is to take out the Noise Marines, but we're going to keep 1 in. 1 always has to be in the deck. Alright, like that. Alright, we've got a ton of mana and some Mindbreak Traps. I think we're going to keep this to fend off them trying to go crazy. We will keep. This looks like a really weird hand, but again, we have 2 Mindbreak Traps to fend off what they're doing when they try to go for it, and then we just keep making our land drops until we can go off. And they're a Storm deck, so it's not like they can realistically play around Mindbreak Trap. They also don't have any discard spells. Okay, Tybalt's Trickery in hand is kind of awkward. We'll play Sandstone Needle and pass. Alright, there's their red source with a mountain into a Reckless Impulse. Okay. Seething Song, Ancient Tomb. They don't have any additional red mana at this point, which is fine. So, we drew an Apex Devastator. We could play Mossfire Village. This is an instant, right? Yes. So what we could do here is we can Mossfire Valley, Beseiju away this in their upkeep. This is enters the battlefield tapped or no? No, just put it onto the battlefield. Okay, we'll play the Mossfire Valley, and I think we're going to go ahead and Beseiju away this Ruby Medallion in their upkeep. And we will Beseiju this away. We're just trying to fend them off until we can either get enough mana to play this Apex Devastator, or we kind of just do whatever. Like, we've got 2 Mindbreak Traps to try to stop them. They've still got a shitload of mana, but they've only got 4 cards in hand, and they don't have their Reducer anymore. And our deck is 50% mana here, so... Unfortunately, City of Traders don't really help that much. But we've still got a bunch of random things here. We also could Tybalt's Trickery something of theirs, but we'll just let this Ruby Medallion go. That's fine. A Ruby Medallion and a land. They've only got 3 cards in hand. Creative Technique. Can I go off here without losing my Sandstone Needle? I can, but I lose the Tinder Farm. So I can try to go off here, which honestly is the correct thing to do. So the question just becomes is how do I want to do this? I can do it without losing the Tinder Farm. So I will tap that for mana, make some mana off of that, lose the Sandstone Needle, play Creative Technique, and we will demonstrate it. There's a possibility they have Mindbreak Traps as well, but I don't think they will. Realm on Zoom Age, that's fine. Into a Tybalt's Trickery. I guess we're going to counter the copy? Which didn't do anything. Okay. Into another Creative Technique. Okay. That was kind of awkward, but okay. Opponent hit a bonus round. Did not cast it. We hit a Trumpeting Carnosaur. So, I don't know... Alright, well, I guess we're going to Tybalt's Trickery away our Creative Technique. Into a Throes of Chaos. Unfortunately, that is our last Tybalt's Trickery. Into a Violent Outburst, which doesn't do anything, unfortunately. So that was kind of bad, but we have a creature on the battlefield now. Probably should not have cast that Tybalt's Trickery, but whatever. Typically, once you start going, you just keep going. Someone who knows the deck a little bit better than me might know when to cast Tybalt's Trickery and when not to. I probably shouldn't have done it there, now that I think about it, but... I also do have a 7/6 Trampler that's just going to start killing them. And we hit another Creative Technique, so we can go off again. And we will attack in. See if they want to trade their Rowlin. Nope. We can do this without losing our Tinder Farm, so we're going to. Tap this. Filter some of this mana. Cast a Creative Technique. Demonstrate it. Ruby Medallion from the opponent. I'm sure they're going to cast that. That's fine. Okay, there we go. There's an Apex Devastator. Now we got a good Cascader. Into a Violent Outburst. I am going to cast it just to get it out of our deck. Into a Noise Marine. I like that. That's going to do some damage. Cascading into a Throes of Chaos, which is going to hit a Violent Outburst. There's something to be said about I should have done this pre-combat, but oh well. I'm pretty sure this Noise Marine is probably going to kill them as it is. And, okay, it lagged there for a second, so I thought our opponent might have been scooping it up. Here's our one of Noise Marine. Noise Marine hits the battlefield. Ping our opponent's face. We hit another Cascade, or another Creative Technique. Yeah, we'll demonstrate it. We're not dead to them hitting a Grape Shot somehow. They can hit a Burgee, that's fine. They're casting as Horn of Harnfell, that's fine. Call forth the Tempest. That will get rid of their creatures. We hit another Trumpeting Carnosaur. That's fine. We discover again. Not going to hit anything off of it. No, we hit a Mindbreak Trap. We're not going to cast that. We hit a Throes of Chaos. We will just get it out of our deck so we don't hit it with the other Apex Devastator trigger. Call forth the Tempest kills the Ral. We Creative Technique. Hit another Apex Devastator. Hit a Maelstrom Wanderer. Yeah, we should have done this pre-combat, but we still have a chance to be able to hit our Emrakul and get another turn. We will cast Trumpeting Carnosaur. We're literally just casting things to get them out of our deck so that we can guarantee that we're going to hit our Emrakul. Another trumpeting Carnosaur, okay. So we're basically trying to get to the point where this creative technique has nothing to hit other than whatchamacallit, Emrakul. And the river is a flowing. Like, if we had done this pre-combat, we would have won, but I didn't want to fizzle. Doesn't matter which one we keep. Call forth the Tempest. Like I said, we're literally just casting things to get them out of our deck so that this creative technique is guaranteed to hit Emrakul. And I think we're hitting that point now where all that's left in our deck is the Emrakul for the creative technique to hit. Yeah, that should be all that's left, because if we could hit anything else with the Apex Devastator, we would. So this creative technique has to hit Emrakul now. And then we get another turn and schwack the opponent for a bajillion. And the opponent scoops it up. Okay, I like it. On to the final round. Alright, final round. Playing for that sweet positive record here. Lost the die roll. Alright, what do we have here? We have a Tybalt's Trickery in hand. We have a turn 3 Noise Marine. Possibly a turn 2 Violent Outburst. I think we'll keep this. See what we draw. Scalding Tarn from the opponent. Into a basic island. Into a ponder. Okay. So we are probably going to be counter-checking them pretty heavily. Did not shuffle off of the ponder. Okay. Into a Maelstrom Wanderer. That doesn't do anything for us. We're going to play a Crystal Vein. If they have Wasteland, we would rather that get Wastelanded than anything else. We also could Tybalt's Trickery. Like, next turn we can play Taiga. We could Tybalt's Trickery whatever they play if we think there's going to be something problematic. Swamp. Okay, so something Dimir. And they're passing the turn. Okay. This is kind of telegraphing a Bowmaster, but we don't draw additional cards, so I don't really care about that. Into a Beseju. I think we're going to play the Taiga. This sets us up to be able to Violent Outburst on their next turn. If that doesn't work out, we can Noise Marine the following turn. Yep, there's the Bowmaster they telegraphed pretty heavily. Into a Underground Sewers, okay. So are they the Reanimator deck? Are they just a straight up Tempo deck? Kept whatever was on top. Just getting in with their creatures, no big deal there. Passing the turn. Okay, I like having a second Beseju, so we're going to do what I said we're going to do, where we're going to pass the turn, and we are going to attempt to Violent Outburst on their turn to test their interaction, untap, and Noise Marine. Alright, opponent's just getting in. Is this going to be like a Kaido? This could be a Kaido, and it looks like it is. Alright, yep, they're ninjutsuing in Kaido. And I think we want to try to do the thing in response to the Surveil, so that they don't have more looks at a counterspell here. They're going to plus Kaido. Okay, they're just going for aggro. Okay, well, we are going to test their interaction here. See how many counterspells they have. Tybalt's Trickery hit the Violent Outburst. Okay, they got a Force of Will. Force of Will pitching a Tamiyo. Okay, 4 cards left. And then I believe we will Noise Marine around a Daze? Well, there's our last Tybalt's Trickery. That is extremely unfortunate. So we can try to Noise Marine just to cascade into some random stuff. Or we can try to set up to Noise Marine and then Tybalt's Trickery it, but we need more red mana if we want to do that. Because we could Noise Marine. If we Noise Marine, we just cascade into a bunch of stuff and then theoretically kill the Kaido? Is that what we want to do here? We don't have any other Cascaders. Having both Tybalt's Trickeries in hand is a problem. I think we just kind of got to do that. We're not going to bother playing around a Daze here, because I care about my mana being able to get up to a point where I can, like, cast an Apex Devastator or something. So we will cast Throws of Chaos. It is extremely awkward that these are in hand. This is going to be 3 damage, so we can at least hit the Kaido. Because unfortunately, we got nothing to be able to hit here. This is going to hit here. There were 3 spells cast this turn. We can hit the Kaido for 3. Yeah, let's hit the Kaido to 3 so that they can't actually, like, down-tick it at all. And just hope that we hit another, whatchamacallit? Cascader. So very unfortunately, we drew all of our Tybalt's Trickeries. We don't have any actual blue mana to be able to cast this Maelstrom Wanderer. Alright, gonna get an emblem here. I think we're gonna go ahead and just chump block the Kaido here. Yeah, we're gonna chump block the Kaido just to protect our life total. They have another Orcish Bowmasters. Okay. Pushing 2 damage. That's mostly fine for now. We need to hit a Cascader. And, like, one that doesn't involve Tybalt's Trickery. Either that or we need to hit another untapped red mana to pull off something kind of weird. Unfortunately, that is still 2 red mana away from being able to do what I want it to. A Mossfire Valley allows us to cast that, but we're just dead to what's on board. We kind of need them to screw up here. No, they're just going to uptick Kaido and attack. Yep, okay. We'll go to the next one. That was extremely unfortunate that all of our Tybalt's Trickeries ended up in hand. But that is a risk that comes with this deck, unfortunately. We're going to bring in the other Tybalt's Trickery, and we're going to bring in 2 more Trumpeting Carnosaurs to try to kill some stuff. And I think we will trim 1 Emrakul, 1 Maelstrom Wanderer, and I think we're going to trim a Tally. And we'll try something like this. Okay, let's see if we can crawl back into this. 1 Tybalt's Trickery in hand, but we have a turn 3 Creative Technique. I think we're going to keep this. Luckily, Creative Technique is kind of helpfully, like, anti-counter magic crap. And we can Emergency Tybalt's Trickery, something our opponent tries to do. We will play the Tinder Farm, pass the turn. Scalding Tarn from the opponent, okay. Nethergoyf, okay. It's not a Thoughtseize, I'm okay with that. Another Tinder Farm. We are going to play Mossfire Valley to hold up Tybalt's Trickery in case they try to do something too crazy here. To hopefully wheel them into something worse. Thoughtseize. We are going to try to Tybalt's Trickery this. Oh, this is annoying how this works. Hey there we go. We will Tybalt's Trickery your Thoughtseize to hopefully wheel you into something worse. We want our hand. Okay, well, we got a Daze out of hand. That's fine. We still have a Noise Marine that we can play next turn. Like, we've got 3 Cascaders in hand, so they take the Creative Technique. Okay. This did grow their Nethergoyf, unfortunately. And they have a Wasteland to follow up. Okay. We're going to take some Nethergoyf beats for a little bit here. But we still have a lot of lands, and our deck is like 50% mana, so we are going to find more lands. That's not really a problem. A Boseiju. That's fine. These pauses in my upkeep make me think they have a Surgical Extraction. Alright, opponent appears to be passing the turn. Underground Sea is back. Getting it with a Nethergoyf, that's fine. And just passing the turn, okay. Like I said, these upkeep stops make me think that they have a Surgical Extraction. Mossfire Valley. I think we'll just play the Crystal Vein. We'll keep playing it a little safe here. I'd like to try to get to the point where I can go for it 1 turn and then try to go again the following turn. Brainstorm from the opponent, okay. Underground Sea from the opponent, okay. So we have 5 mana next turn to be able to try to go for a... We could try to go for a Noise Marine here, but I don't know if we want to. We still have an okay life total here. I think we're going to try to wait. So let's see. If I pop these, this is 5 mana, 6 mana, and then I still don't have enough mana to try to go off the next turn. Or I could pop one of these, 2, 4. No, I'd have to pop both because this is only +1 mana. Yeah, we're going to wait 1 more turn. Opponent's going to Brainstorm. Okay. Polluted Delta. Opponent was going to do something there and then decided against it. So I think we try for Trumpeting Carnosaur next turn and then follow it up with a Noise Marine the following turn. Into another Nethergoyf, okay. So they've got 4 cards in hand. They have Daze available. They could have Force of Will. Ancient Tomb. Does this change anything? We can't tap it or we're dead. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 7 mana. If we want to lose both of these, well, let's play this. Tap this. Make some mana. Make some mana. We are going to try the Trumpeting Carnosaur first, because this isn't going to kill us. And if this resolves, even if it fizzles, it means I have a blocker. And then I should be able to untap... Ooh, Hydroblast. Okay. Do they have a way to get the extra 2 points of damage in is the question. Because then we just try to Noise Marine next turn and hope for the best. I would love to hit some kind of bigger Cascader even. Like, we have the mana to be able to Apex Devastator. Oh my god, Harbinger of the Seas. I literally don't think we can win now. We do not have a basic red source at all. Yeah, we got by Harbinger of the Seas. God damn. Yeah, we got by Harbinger of the Seas. Normally moon effects don't really affect us, but blue is the one color we can't really use. Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, we'll address it all in the wrap up. So at the end of the league, I think this was a really good showcase of both the good and the bad of this deck. We got to see when we're up against opponents who are not really interacting with us, we just get to do our thing, flip our whole deck into play, and the only way that we really lose those matches is if we fizzle. And we did see this deck does have a fizzle rate. When we spun into the Tybalt's Trickery off the Trumpeting Carnosaur or Tybalt's Trickery into Tybalt's Trickery, so it is something to keep in mind that the deck can fizzle even if your opponent's not interacting with you. We also did see that up against the blue decks, you basically just got to keep trying to force check them. We did get to see the risk of demonstrating with Creative Technique and spinning our opponent into a counter. Normally, Creative Technique is pretty counter-proof because typically the opponent's going to need two counters because you're going to get two copies. But if you do spin your opponent into a counter, they get to counter one of them for free, then they still only need one counter to stop what you're doing. But I think the deck overall actually did exactly what it was supposed to do. It showed the good and the bad of how the deck functions. One thing to keep in mind is that even though the deck is 30% mana, it actually is pretty weak to land hate because most of your lands are coming into play tapped. So even though it looks like you should be really good up against like wasteland style effects, because most of your mana is coming into play tapped and delayed, they actually can keep you off of your combo long enough for them to be able to beat you down if they're on something like a tempo game plan where they're just wasting you while they're beating you down with a small threat. So that is something to keep into mind. We also did see that we actually are extremely weak to Harbinger of the Seas. Um, Typically, like a Blood Moon effect isn't going to do much against this deck because it is base red. So you basically just have to keep hitting your lands until you can naturally cast your Cascaders. But blue mana is the one mana this deck really can't use. Yes, there is a single blue pip in Maelstrom Wanderer, but you've only got a basic mountain. So if someone Harbinger of the Tides is you, you can get the red and the blue, but you're never going to be able to get the green to actually be able to cast it. So that is a card that is just straight up going to kill you. But overall, the deck was a ton of fun. I think Noise Marine is actually kind of a cool little addition. We did get to see it do its thing. We never got to see it dome our opponent for the full amount, but we got to see it both hitting our opponent directly and being able to burn down something on the board. So the versatility of being able to hit anything with Noise Marine was nice, and I was glad I was able to showcase that in this league. Sideboard wise, I don't really have a ton of comments on that. Unfortunately, because of the fact that we are a Cascade deck, it very much limits our ability to have sideboard cards. Having some sort of removal outside of Trumpeting Carnosaur would be nice, because we theoretically could kill something like a Harbinger of the Moon or a Harbinger of the Seas with it. But because it requires black mana, we have to either already have our mountain or naturally draw it and then still have our Trumpeting Carnosaur, and you're just not going to realistically be able to remove anything with more than 3 toughness. But the deck was a ton of fun to play. I'm really glad we got to showcase Noise Marine. I really do think it fits in this deck. I hope you all had as much fun watching as I did playing. I will catch you all on the next one. And as always, stay salty. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you like what you saw. If you did, do me a favor, hit that like and sub button below. There are free ways to support the channel. And drop a comment, let me know what you like. Any kind of feedback you got, your opinions on my gameplay, the decks that I play, any of that kind of stuff. If you really like what you see, go ahead and drop by the Patreon. Become a patron, get to read some of my tournament reports and some stuff going on outside of just Magic in my life that I'm going to start putting over there as kind of my own personal blog. Also, you can do donation deck lists over there, just the price of a league if you have a specific deck you want to see, or you have an idea you want me to brew around, something like that, go ahead and do that. Nothing is required. It's always appreciated, though. Any donations go directly back into the channel, covering stuff such as leagues for donation decks or the rental program that I'm a part of. I am a small-time YouTuber. I'm doing this for fun. I really hope you all like what you saw. I truly appreciate you all stopping by. I will catch you all in the next video, and as always, stay salty.